Taiwanese hospital supernatural. Tales hospitals are places where life and death intersect, fostering numerous taboos and supernatural tales. I've heard people caution against randomly lying in empty hospital beds when accompanying patients overnight. Healthy individuals should avoid this practice. Additionally, when visiting a hospital, it's recommended to use visitor elevators over medical ones. The former is designated for healthcare personnel, while the latter is often used to transport deceased patients to the morgue. These are crucial points for families to note. Moreover, among hospital staff, there exist mysterious taboos. For instance, there's a belief against consuming pineapples, whether in pineapple pizza or pineapple fried rice, because the Taiwanese word for pineapple sounds like prosperity, signifying an overload of tasks if consumed. Similarly, there's a superstition against consuming Wang Wang crackers and mangoes due to their association with being busy. Hospitals are replete with taboos, and the tales of the supernatural within these walls are abundant. Today, we're diving into the eerie experiences of nurses. Story 1. A few years ago, when I was still working as a specialist, there was a long weekend when the first bed in Ward A admitted a patient needing dialysis. Due to deteriorating health, the patient passed away shortly after admission. This particular patient had both legs amputated due to diabetes. The following night, in the early hours, an elderly grandma was admitted to the first bed in Ward C, just opposite Ward A. The family had signed a do not resuscitate agreement on the day of admission. Beds in Wards A and C happened to be positioned near the entrance, allowing a direct line of sight between the two. On the third day, as the grandma's condition turned critical, her family frequently visited. Thinking it might be better for the grandma to have a private room for herself, considering the passing of the dialysis patient in Ward A, I suggested to her son, "Since your grandma is in critical condition and nearing the end, I can transfer her to Ward A. She'll have a separate space and it would be easier for your family to be with her." When her son came to visit, I explained the situation to him. He responded, "That doesn't make sense. You said the bed was unoccupied, but I saw a patient lying there last night. Has that patient been discharged?" His words sent shivers down my spine. I calmly replied, "No one has occupied that bed for 2 days. The room was vacant when your grandma arrived. Are you sure you saw it correctly?" At this point, the son insisted, "I'm sure I didn't mistake it. I saw a person lying there with both legs amputated. It was a guy, and he even looked at me." Ultimately, they chose not to move to that ward. Sometimes in hospitals, certain details can truly send shivers down your spine. Story 2. I worked at a small hospital some years ago. In its ICU with only 7 beds, the first bed was occupied by an elegant, frail Hakka grandma in her 80s. She had big eyes, a petite frame, didn't smoke or drink, and was admitted due to heart failure, struggling to breathe, thus needing intubation. She was a cooperative patient, even though uncomfortable with the tube. As she regained consciousness, she'd smile, thanking the nurses for suctioning, and didn't resist much. Her family was polite and kind. The 6th bed in the same ward was occupied by a feisty Minnan grandma in her mid-60s, a heavy smoker and drinker who also chewed betel nuts. Her chronic respiratory and lung problems, along with a collapsed lung and enlarged heart, required intubation upon admission. She was dark, tall, and strong, with a difficult temperament, needing restraint straps, yet persistently tried to remove the tube, causing quite a hassle for us. Her visits were primarily by her second son, who claimed to be a bone setter. I couldn't help but notice him since he'd often peer around, focusing on strange spots. although I couldn't ascertain what exactly. While the other patients gradually moved to regular wards due to improved conditions, these two remained critical, both on vasopressors and still intubated. It felt like a race between them to outpace death, to win the ultimate victory. Naturally, we hoped both would recover, but from the start, we felt the grandma in the first bed might have a tough time surviving. She often appeared distant, looking around the bed and sometimes speaking to thin air. During the shift change, a previous nurse mentioned that the grandma told her family about a dark figure standing next to her bed, like the Grim Reaper waiting to take her away. It sent chills down our spines. Days passed, and the condition of the first grandma improved significantly, stable blood pressure and heart rate, able to sit up, eat, and drink by herself. We observed her smiling, feeling relieved. However, the outlook for the sixth bed's grandma was grim, unable to remove the respirator, unstable vital signs, maximum vasopressors, persistent low blood pressure, edema, and loss of consciousness. We called her second son to ask if she preferred to pass away at home, as some elders wish. On the evening of the visitation hour at 7:30, the second son appeared with cymbals and a bell, pacing around the bed and creating a peculiar scene. Amazingly, after the second son left, the blood pressure of the sixth bed's grandma started rising from extremely low levels of 45/26, and she began showing resistance again. We found it truly incredible. Did he manage to drive away the emissary of the netherworld? Early the next morning, around 5:30, I entered the room to find the first grandma sitting up, staring at the sixth bed. Suddenly, her expression turned grimacing and painful. She pointed at the sixth bed and let out a gasp. The monitor flashed red and I rushed to provide emergency care, but sadly she passed away due to acute myocardial infarction, blocking a major heart vessel. We informed the family, and they were in disbelief. They were about to prepare for a room transfer but ended up arranging discharge procedures. It was surreal. What's more, as if in a bizarre swap, the sixth bed's grandma's condition instantly improved, and within a few days, she was transferred to a regular ward and eventually discharged in good health. We kept wondering if the second son's actions led the Grim Reaper to claim the Haka grandma on the opposite side. But it's all conjecture. The truth remains unknown, and I'll never know for sure. Story 3. This incident takes me back to just after my college graduation. Back then, driven by ambition and dreams for the future, I didn't hesitate to choose the intensive care unit of the hematology-oncology department for my placement. I landed in a newly constructed building with an 80-bed floor. Each nurse was responsible for 8 cancer patients. This incident unfolded there. It was about a 50-year-old man suffering from oral mucosal cancer. His cheeks were riddled with cancerous sores, necessitating daily cleaning with long cotton swabs and gauze to clear the pus and tissue fluid that gathered in each pore. The smell was unforgettable. He didn't have relatives nearby, and his daughter visited occasionally for about 10 minutes. As there was no caregiver assigned, whenever I had a spare moment, I'd help change his diapers or adjust his position to make him more comfortable. Due to chemotherapy and radiation, he was physically weak. I attached a call bell to his bed rail, but eventually he couldn't even muster the strength to use it. So, I gave him my pen, which he tapped lightly on the bed rail when he needed help. 2 weeks later, he passed away. Cancer cells had invaded every part of his body, eventually reaching his bones. I removed his tubes and conducted post-mortem care, hoping for a peaceful journey for him. but I couldn't find the pen I had given him. I asked the cleaning staff, but they hadn't seen it either. One day, while walking in the corridor, I heard a tapping sound. Instinctively, I turned towards his room to check. He wasn't there. I thought I must be exhausted and mistaken. A few days later, finishing my shift in the evening, as I walked back to my rented place just as the traffic light turned green, I heard a tapping sound, impossible on the main road. I stopped instinctively and noticed a pen by my feet. How could it be here? It was mine. I went to pick it up, and within a second, a speeding car ran a red light and nearly brushed against me. It was so close that my hair fluttered from the wind. The car hit the median, ejecting the passenger, shattering the windshield, and deploying the airbags. I rushed to check the person's condition, asked bystanders to call an ambulance, and requested they not move the patient. I provided a brief report over the phone until a senior nurse from the ambulance arrived to take over, and they were taken to the hospital. The car reeked of alcohol. The driver was under the influence. At that moment, I wondered if the sound I heard in the hospital was from the man trying to convey something to me. I can't be certain, but if I hadn't picked up that pen, I might not be here to share this story. Speaking of eerie hospital occurrences, the scariest experience I had was with an X-ray. Have you ever had an X-ray taken? One elderly lady was admitted due to discomfort. Her lungs were fine when she was admitted, but the next morning she suddenly had severe breathing problems, necessitating intubation. The doctor quickly ordered an X-ray, but when the image came out, it revealed something bizarre. The X-ray showed two hands, one choking her neck, the other clutching her ribs. The doctor said this was from an X-ray machine that hadn't been officially uploaded into the system. But the truly eerie thing was, if it were hands, it should have shown bones, not fully formed hands. Some speculated it was an image taken afterward. However, the attending physician insisted the image wasn't doctored. 3 days after the X-ray, the lady was extubated and transferred from ICU to a regular ward. No one dared speak up due to fear of upsetting her. However, in the regular ward, she said she felt breathless because someone climbed on top of her, one hand strangling her throat, the other gripping her chest. It's a chilling story, and the image of the X-ray was terrifying. What kind of hands were those that couldn't be captured by an X-ray machine? And if the photo was post-edited, was it necessary for the hospital staff to do such a thing? Thank you guys for watching this video, and be sure to look out for the next Asian horror story. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and ring the notification bell for future uploads.